everyone. It's so nice to see you again virtually. You're on a music and chat 4-part mini-series special, which I call Shueh-li the Shang, where I am spending my 2-week quarantine in Singapore. And this hotel where I am is called the Shangri-La Hotel, with its nickname the Shang, hence Shueh-li the Shang. This day is the final day of my 4-part mini-series, which is a part of the music and chat. And I have so far discussed 3 of my albums, and I shall proceed to play music and talk about my 4th album. For those of you who have tuned in, please say hi in the live chat and let us know where you're tuning in from, and don't be backward and coming forward. I'm a little choked knowing that this is my final mini-series broadcast, because it will be a while before I gather my schedule for season 3 of Music and Chat with Shueh-li Ong, where I will be broadcasting from Singapore. So, isn't it amazing that it's been almost a year since I started broadcasting music and chat? And it all began because of the pandemic. But that's how things happen, isn't it? When something presents itself as an obstacle, you just find something good to make out of it, kind of like the old saying of making lemonade out of being presented with lemons. So I want to say hi to our dear friend Gary Mayulo, and a team member of Music and Chat. Hi Gary, always good to see and hear from you. If you're interested in being a member of Music and Chat, we have a Facebook page. Let's see if I can find this page to show you. And besides liking our Facebook page, you can volunteer your services as an ambassador of sorts and help us promote music and chat when we start broadcasting again. So I've kind of found so this is our interested to be members of and volunteers of. Help spread the word, everybody. I want to say, and I did not notice this, but new addition. Hi, Brian. Brian is a friend of Gary's. Gary, you have plenty of friends. You must be a good buddy. Well, I know you're a great person, but it looks like you're a great buddy to all your buddies. Brian, thanks for joining us. Brian is from California, Jersey. Wow. Interesting. I've never been to California, Jersey. I'm, okay, Brian says I'm a California, Jersey guy here in the Carolinas. It's kind of like me saying I'm an Aussie Singaporean here in the States. Is that what you're trying to say? I hope so, because I don't want to get confused first thing. And Gary says, Brian says Gary pays us well. Oh dear, does that mean I have to tip Gary now? If I tip Gary, he has the funds to pay you. Scratch, 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 scratch. This is not very good business after all. I also want to say say hi to Philip Santori. Philip is also a friend of Gary's. Gary, remind me next time I have a party to make you the leader or the host, cause you have plenty of friends. Puts me to shame. I thought I had plenty of friends, but someone's trumped me, and that's you. And then we have John Tobacco. Hotel room, yeah. I believe the world, well, at least the countries who have executed or put in place quarantine measures, have to employ the use of hotels who do not have or are suffering from the lack of business. They make arrangements with hotel rooms or hotels to accommodate, because the setup is ready to accommodate people for an extended period of time. Of course, I'm very fortunate that in Singapore most of the hotels are pretty pretty happening, so to speak, and in downtown Singapore the hotels are mainly 5-star hotels, so it's a very comfortable stay for sure. We just need to, because there's no interaction with people, you can't leave the room, so you gotta get prepared to be to have things to do during the day. Otherwise you have an issue trying to get over jet lag, because if you're sleeping all the time, there's no way to adjust to the new time zone, and if you don't have work to do, the time gets dragged out, and it can get a little. It starts to drive you crazy, I suppose. A cousin of mine mentioned something like having cabin fever. If you don't climb up the walls, you start going a little stir crazy. Also, you have to do your own. You wash your own dishes. They do bring you catered meals because you can't leave the place. You can get grab food. You can order your own meals in, but they do cater meals for you, and you have to wash your own utensils and stuff. Whatever you use, do your own housekeeping. So change your sheets. The norm seems to be changing your sheets once every week. You change your towels and things like that, and you do pay for it. But I won't go into the nitty gritties of the quarantine arrangements. But you do pay for staying in quarantine, so it's not free. You do have to pay for it. The details, of course, are online if you're curious as to the cost and all that. And of course, the government is very careful so that they keep people safe, whether you're a visitor, a resident, or a citizen. Everyone is kept safe. They conduct PCR tests, which you pay for as well, to make sure that you are A-OK. And if you need medical help, that will be provided for you, which you pay for as well. But they do manage you very well. They do call you every day to check on you to make sure you're okay, which is nice. All right, so that's all I'm going to say about the quarantine situation. John Tobacco wanted to know how long the lockdown. It's not a lockdown, it's quarantine. So because I've come back to Singapore, so measures have been put in place where if you are allowed in the country because you're a resident, a citizen, or you've arrived from various regions in the world, cleared to enter Singapore, you must be quarantined for 2 weeks. Yes. So that's all I'm going to say about the quarantine. Again, you can go online to find details about it because I try not to get too political. I am just reiterating uh, facts that have been given out to the general public and the media, so it's not something new. I'm not spouting propaganda, I'm not making anything up. But I don't want to go into details because I'm not sure how much uh, is allowed because I'm not a media representative or their spokesperson. Okay, so I also want to say hi to Mike Flavin, our good friend, who goes also by the name Mike Flavin, but to me he is Mike Flavin. Good to see you all. It's just my final day broadcasting Shueh-li the Shang, and we have uh, a fairly good turnout today, which makes me extremely happy to know that you want to keep me company for my last broadcast of Shueh-li the Shang. It's not my last day in quarantine, but it's the last day that I am broadcasting Shueh-li the Shang so that I can begin to transition to other work that I have to do before the end of quarantine. Hi, Sam. I don't know who he's replying to, but Sam's from Sydney, Australia, and a great friend of mine as well. Everyone here is a good friend, which is so nice. If it it makes me feel so much better now that I know I have as many friends as Gary Mayulo has, and I don't have to pay them to to join me in my broadcast. Gary, tell us how much you have to pay your friends to attend. Oh dear, it's so funny. Oh, Sam, I see. Anyway, again, hello to everybody. All right, let's move on because there's a good number of you. I've already done my little uh, intro and mingle with the viewers segment, and now I can move on to why I'm here. Besides partying with you, all my friends, I'm here because we are looking at my fourth album. Uh, title a working title a working title special edition. I named it a working title after my title track, and special edition because it includes a couple or if not three tracks from album number 3, as I wanted to release it in Nashville and also to have it represent the work that I've done presently then and in Nashville and in the past. So, if I were to say to Nashvillians or in the music industry, this is my album, they would have a rough idea of the range of things that I can do or have done. So all which is to say, I moved to Nashville in 2010 from Dallas for a fresh perspective on writing and composing. Strangely enough, I did a reconnaissance trip, or in Singapore they call them a recce, to Nashville in November, I think, of 2009 with my good friend Tom Brislin. Tom plays with Kansas now. I hope they're doing well. It seems that they've just released an album, so congratulations, Kansas and Tom. So we did a reconnaissance trip because we were trying to figure out, whether it was a good place to be to do our individual new albums under our own names. Because as you know, I have been writing under the moniker Xenovibes, which initially represented my sound, which is a mixture of everything that I love, my background, ethnic background, and my musical training. I thought I want to move away from that and just write under my name, which initially was a little difficult for me to take in because it's easier. I'm the marketeer as well. I look after my own product and my own image, so to speak. That's what indie musicians do, right? So it was easier to market under Xenovibes than under my own name, because under my own name, it felt a little too personal. But I got used to it eventually. I'm just saying, for those who started off marketing under their own name, they are very brave, very, very brave indeed. So, I really loved Nashville when Tom and I visited. I was also writing for Southeast Asian news blog Sonic Freaks at that moment, so I had a few contacts, and I knew the president of Steinway USA, Ron Losby, so he made arrangements with Brendan Herrenbrook, who was the head of Steinway in Nashville, Steinway Piano Gallery, and I believe general manager, and he hooked me up with a few artists to interview. So I wrote several articles, not just artists, people or entities that owned Steinway pianos. So I wrote several articles. If you're interested, they're on my website, Shueh-li.com. It's the first one, Shueh-li.com. I wrote several articles from that trip, including a little summary of my trip, my reconnaissance trip with Tom. So anyway, I felt that Nashville was so much like being home in Melbourne, Australia, so I made the decision to move the following year. So besides writing a new album under my own name, I also continued the exploration and development of performance articulation and phrasing on the theremin to bring out its various personalities in its voice. I'm not sure if you have watched my music and chat series, but I've mentioned in the past that a lot of people think that the theremin's voice is just one faceted. Uh, it it has there's no variety or flexibility, and a lot of people equate the voice of a theremin as that akin to what's most suitable for a sci-fi movie or Halloween movie. And the answer sadly is no, that's not all it's good for. It's kind of like someone looking at you and saying, well, I see that you studied math. I guess you'll be a good accountant and that's all you're good for. Where math appears in so many facets in life and so many industries where you could really apply your skill in any of these facilities, isn't it? So that's what I attempted to do with the theremin. So I had already been working on developing my own style in bringing out the various voices of the theremin. So this was just a situation where I had a chance to continue. So I also stepped up my compositional efforts because the theremin has very scant material written for it, and the only way truly to improve or to experiment is to have cause to experiment. So my compositions were like etudes for my own study, and as I composed for it, I also got to try out new ways and find new voices for it. So let me just have a sip. Okay, guys. So, lastly, about the theremin experimentation, is I really wanted to develop a style of my own. It's a very interesting instrument to develop a style on because there is no way that you are in contact with it. So how do you come up with a style that is your own? But prior to that, how do you create expressive performance? Playing scales as fast as lightning does not mean it's musical or expressive. Just like jabbing in the air does not make playing the theremin musical or expressive. And often after a performance that I've done, the most common question I get is, where can I buy one of those? So I'm going to have a pause here because it looks like most of the comments have now moved over to my dear friend Tom. So I'll let that party kind of fade away first, and then I will proceed. I'm sure Tom is very happy that everyone is so keen on his success, and so am I. Uh, Coincidentally, Tom does feature on my fourth album on the track Leave Me in Stasis. So, since we started on my good friend, I also wanted to bring up how wonderful Nashville has been in support of my work. And in 2012, I began producing an annual, what was it now? Shueh-li at Steinway. So I would do, and my first show was the release party, I guess, of the album, a working title special edition. So before I get there, I just want to show you a final map of where Singapore is in relation to Australia and North America and South America and Asia, so you can see, for those of you who are curious. And my first show at Steinway, I invited some friends of mine to play with me. And of course, Tom is on piano for my song Leave Me in Stasis, as you can see. And the middle is Elizabeth Small. She's a violin extraordinaire at Vanderbilt. And I also had BG Adair, who is a Steinway jazz pianist. The lighting is a little poor, unfortunately. I learned a lot after the first concert. I produced all my own shows, so it was good to, see visual representations of the final product to know what to do next. A few more pictures of special friends who appeared with me. Here is Eric Struthers, who plays with the Neville Brothers Quartet, who played with me on one of the shows. As I said, Shirley Presents at Steinway. It was an annual concert. Of course, when COVID hit, I could not present anymore. And Shirley Presents at Steinway has made it to the Nashville scene's special must-see section. One more picture for you, I think. Here's me with Tony Gerber, another good friend of some of ours. I believe this was 2 years ago. And of course, with John Martinez, my Xenovibes US core member, this was a year prior to Tony's, I think. So I have a question from John, sorry, Tobacco. When you play a theremin, do you completely improvise melodies or do you work them out first? It depends. Are you talking about live performance or album? If it's album, of course, you work them out and you try and discover what sounds the best before you record. In terms of live, because of people who might have bought my albums already, I do stay close to the original, but there's always some improvisational aspect to a live performance. Same thing as when I play the synthesizer or tin whistle or sing, I don't play it completely as is on album. It's an interesting question though, because for me as a music consumer, a consumer of other people's music, when you hear it on the album and you really enjoy it, and you go to their live performance, you want to hear it as what's on the album, but often than not in a live performance, it veers away from the recording. So I often uh, wonder if that's such a good thing. But I guess live concert audiences are quite used to the fact that you would, as the performer, would often do something a little different, because it is live, and they appreciate that. I hope that answers your question, John Tobacco. Oh, so Gary's watched it. Clips from that concert. Yes, BG Ade is spectacular. Such a warm and bubbly person. When I first met her, I felt like she was an old friend. She makes you feel that way, like you are, like a friend, an old friend. Very comfortable when you sit with her. Yes, thanks, Gary. Anyone else with questions? So it was also in Nashville when I started touring the East Coast, and it also gave me a chance to visit with my friends, and some of you are here in attendance right now. Miss you all. It's strange when I'm there, I miss my family so much. When I'm here, I miss my friends who've become my family in the USA, I suppose. So, let us. I do have a few pickies, not all of my East Coast trip, but I do have another question. John Tobacco says, do you find that your theremin playing is influenced by how you sing? In fact, I found that my theremin playing is more influenced by how I play synthesizer. But strangely enough, I've realized that I've kind of intermingled, or maybe I should say mingle, all the ways I express myself and all the ways that the instruments have allowed me to express myself. Meaning, every instrument has certain leeway, certain properties that do things better than other instruments, right? For example, the theremin is great at this continuous glissando type thing, with no regard whatsoever to pitch in between. So you are not hammed in by, uh, you know, a key on a keyboard in the way. Whoops, I missed that. Although you can always program glissando with a pitch bend wheel, or program the glissando where you can just hit two keys that are so far apart that you don't have to play it. It goes, but even with the voice, I do find that I am hampered by, the notes in between, because you start thinking too much about it. Whereas with the theremin, you do have to as well think of the end note. And of course, pitch playing the theremin is very hard to locate. So you do have this preparation in your mind and some form of muscle memory for the glissando. But anyway, to answer John Tobacco's question, it's influenced by, I think, all of what I do. And as I develop the phrasing on an expressive musical performance, phrasing on the theremin, I'm also informing the way I play synthesizer and perhaps sing and all that kind of stuff. Yes, I believe it's also because the theremin has such a voice-like quality to it. As I was saying earlier on, it's it's unhampered in many ways, so you feel like you're not obstructed by knowing knowing which keys to press, or which vowels to press, or which strings to push down on, and that kind of stuff. It has its own difficulty. In the hands of an expert like a magic show, it looks like it's magic and it looks easy, and that becomes a little bit of a problem when you have people wanting to buy instruments and you're so happy that they have an interest in a theremin, but they don't think of the next step, as in how will they learn how to play it, and how long will they take to learn how to play it. And often these instruments end up in the store closet because it's great to have. Everyone says, these people say, oh, I have a theremin too, but I don't play it. That's because it does take an effort. It takes many years of effort to be able to play it properly. When I say properly, I'm talking about musically. So musically, it's also like a voice. There are punctuation points. There are points where you would, tie a word over, or there's crescendo, decrescendo, and all that kind of stuff. There's so much involved called dynamics. There's so much involved in the dynamics to make an expressive and then a musical performance that pulling a thereminist's performance apart would be very interesting, because there is forethought. If you are your own composer, there's forethought into why certain things are played that way. Unless you play it flat, you can play it musically, but it may not be expressive. The expression part makes it meaningful. Gary says, I'm still amazed at your theremin abilities. Thank you. I tried one and it sounded like a train wreck. Yes, it can. I guess like any instrument, a good example is starting to play a violin and all I can hear are screeches, and you drive your neighbors away and all that kind of stuff, which is, from what I found out, made electronic pianos or digital pianos very popular, because the marketing line is, not only do you get the real feel and touch of the touch and feel of a real piano, but you can put headphones on and no one will hear what you're doing. Gary says, continues with, I think that's because good players make it look easy, but it's not. Yeah, just like any instrument or any skill for that matter, it's made to look easy because it is, beyond practice. It's become a natural habit. So it becomes and it looks easy. I think a good example is watching someone dice up something, e.g., dicing up an onion or something. They make it look so straightforward. Okay, let's investigate. Oh, sorry, I didn't realize my mic was muted. So thanks, Gary. So what I was trying to say was, a working title special edition T comes with a bonus track. And the bonus track is Thriller, the cover. And the Thriller, the cover was done with two special guests, Chris Curell, who worked on Michael Jackson's Bad album with Quincy Jones, and also on the tour where he was responsible for the synth clavier and also playing the synth guitar. He was a guest on in season 1. And Chris Curell, as if you've been following my live stream, he will be back with Rory Kaplan, who was on my live stream just a few weeks ago. They'll be back in June. At least that's when I've booked them. Also involved in my Thriller cover is Jeff Bell, another good friend of mine, who was a radio DJ across America and is a voice-over pro. Thanks, John Tobacco and Gary Mayulo, for letting me know that my microphone was muted. Yeah, there's so much to keep your you pay attention to, that it's good that you guys are out there prompting me. Sometimes I'm unaware of something being muted or not, but this is wonderful. Okay, so a working title special edition T also has other bonus materials, videos, and things like that. But a working title special edition, the CD alone does not have the bonus items. But if you're interested in buying the physical CD, let me know. I'll be most honored to send one away. Okay, so the track that I picked for you today is I'm Leaving You a Message, which is this one. And there's a story behind I'm Leaving You a Message. Sam and Gary and I kind of dwelled into my track from album 3 yesterday, where I mentioned writing Sweet Talker, country music song, and Sam was insistent that country songs come from real life experiences and wanted to know who the individuals in the song were. And then he chuckled, of course. Sam's a great friend. Sam, are you there? you're listening to this in the background while you're working. So I'm leaving you a message. So when it came to writing in Nashville, I was quite keen to expose a bit more personal stuff, because that's how Nashvillians come up with material for their songs. And until Sweet Talker, I've mainly written in cryptic messages, or I call them poems. I would write verses, have them rhyme, because exposing yourself is requires a little bit of a a different attitude. You must be unafraid to present it to the general public for consumption. It's like reading a tell-all book. So, but my method, because I'm a people observer kind of person, I love melding different characters together and making them one, or making them actors in my song. So I'm leaving you a message, has some personal content and also observation content from my observations, which I really enjoy, because I'm leaving you a message tells a story of a character who's inseparable from his cell phone, which is around us, right? So it's observational. So this character constantly has his nose in his phone instead of a book is the phone, and unaware of life that goes on around him, and his relationship suffers. So then the protagonist was the girl. So it's got to be the girl because I'm singing it, right? So the girl is saying, I'm leaving you a message. See you one fine day. Oh boy. So Sam, you're back. I hope you're not neglecting your work. So okay, let me play you this track from my Bandcamp site, and I will also display the lyrics so you can follow it. Here we go.
Next to you while you stare at your hand.
Okay, I want to address some of the comments. First from Mike Flavin, country music equals three chords and the truth. It's so funny. Brian, I hear Neil Shun in the background. Oh, wow, thank you. I executed all the instrumentation, as you know. I am engineer, producer, synthesist, performer, you name it, I do it. I do my photography, my music videos, I market my wares. Such is the life of an indie artist. Gary says, I think your lead vocal on this song is particularly excellent. Thanks. I was trying to stay kind of in the spectrum of vocal stuff that I've done more mainstream because I was in Nashville, and it was a song that I put together following the verse chorus, bridge chorus kind of idea to see if it might be taken up in Nashville. Someone might want to record the song or whatever, or license it for TV or film or something like that. But I know my work tends to be a little off the main road, you know, a little too exotic or esoteric. So I wasn't expecting anything to happen from it, particularly when I added that little theremin solo at the tail end. That didn't conform to the verse chorus, bridge chorus anymore. But I really wanted to put it in because it's my song. uh, Brian says, very cool, thanks. John Tobacco says, I can hear some microtonal tunes in the background. Am I imagining that? No, John, there is always some micro tuning happening in my music. The fact that you can hear it tells me that you have very sharp ears that are accustomed to detecting micro microtones because micro tuning is everywhere. So, and because we have harmonics, partials, and and intervals or fractions of these partials that appear in all our music, but certain instruments bring it out more. And in I'm leaving you a message, I did use the guting. For those who were here on Monday, sorry, not Monday, the first day of my mini series live stream, I talked about the Chinese zither. It's a 7-string fretless and instrument with no sound hole, which is very conducive to playing microtonal stuff. In fact, if you hear an expert on it, it would wow you to musical heaven. It's quite a spectacular surround sound of microtones. So, John Tobacco, yes, good job. Mike Flavin, those powerful bass lines. Thank you, Mike Flavin. Yes, as you know now, I love a good bass line, and I make every attempt to make the bass line speak in every song of mine. Oh, Brian, thanks. This is taking me away. Nice, thanks. Gary, great production on this. Thank you. When there's no guitar on that track. No, there's no good reason for a guitar on that track. I had the guting kind of take the place. The guting was fed through fuzz and delay to take the place of any strummed instruments that might be typical in a country song. I'm Leaving You a Message was not meant to be a country song. It was meant to be a pop song, or at least in the pop genre, where I had something different to give the client if they were interested. Here's a song in the pop genre, but it has a slightly different sound to it. So that was what I was aiming for. No one's picked it up yet, but it is one of my favorite songs to sing and to perform and to still listen to if I were to listen to my fourth album. Oh, thanks, John Tobacco. I have to admit, I don't know who Martin Denny is. And I will admit that I don't know when I don't know. And I will admit that. I've met too many people out there in the real world who refuse to confess they are they have no knowledge in an area when all they have to say is, I don't know. Could you illuminate me or enlighten me? But thanks, John Tobacco. Uh, Brian wanted to know, do you play a bass guitar or play bass on the keys? I play bass on the keys. Just like I emulate all the other instruments, I use a MIDI keyboard controller, and a controller is basically what the name implies. If you set the surface up to play what you need it to play, and you also program or tweak a sound that you have on a synthesizer, you can make it sound or perform whatever it is you want to. And the sound doesn't have to be static, meaning just because you tweak that sound, that's not all you can play. By using extended keyboard techniques, which I won't go into right now, but it's a form of manipulating a programmed sound. You can make it do things outside the static sound. E.g., after you pluck something, you can still give it vibrato or tremolo or whatever, that kind of. So you extend the static sound. So by doing that, I'm able to play or try to play convincingly an instrument that would otherwise not be a keyboard. I hope that answers your question, Brian. Mike Flevin, the plucky sound, yeah, the plucky sound is the guqing. Yes. Oh, okay. Thanks, John Tobacco. Martin Denny was an American pianist and composer best known as the father of exotica. Well, thank you. I've learned something new today. I did not know that. So, I'm still hopeful that my music get picked up for licensing. It would be so cool. I have decided that I shan't wait for it to happen, but that I will continue to write as I write, and hope that what I produce will be appreciated and consumed. Okay, Brian. He says he was in a band and their keyboard player sang and played a second keyboard for bass, and she was super talented. Oh, thanks, Brian. Yes, it's cool, isn't it? I don't. I've never tried to replace an instrument. If I had a band of musicians, that I was really working with, I would say, let's all play our instruments. But since I am tracking for myself, and my compositional efforts begin with the building blocks, and in my mind, I can hear and see what I want. So, and since I'm skilled to do it, I do it anyway. Furthermore, it's a demonstration of my other skills that I have, which I hope, people out there would pick up as well. So I'm not just a theremin player or a keyboard player or a vocalist or whatever, but I can also synthesize sounds. And if you need my services to play a bass line, which, of this sort, and you like what I do, you can engage me to do that too, or compose or collaborate, or sound design. So in a way, I've been lucky that I can put all my abilities in the pot and make different meals out of it. so long as I can imagine what I want the creation to be. And I'm lucky that I can hear it and see it. And hearing it is important. John Tobacco wanted to know, what program are you using to record your music? For albums 3 and 4, I use Logic Pro. Logic Pro allows me to MIDI sequence as well as hard disk record. Prior to that, I used Cubase. I was one of the clinicians for Cubase in Singapore. So it was a natural kind of thing to do. If there are no more questions about, I'm leaving you a message, and I hope you enjoyed that. I want to play You Leave Me in Stasis, which is an instrumental, and I have my good friend Tom Brislin on this one. Tom played a piano part that I wrote for him. He, of course, did a version of it so that it was more dynamic, more organic, sorry. But instead of playing it to you from my Bandcamp page, I'm going to play it to you from my YouTube page, because I did create a music video for it, and it does show Tom's hands. So let's do that, shall we? Here we go. I'm looking at Leave Me in Stasis. Song number 2 with Tom. Okay, I've typed that in our live chat, so let's look at that.
I'm the flower and you're the bee. You dance around and tease me. When you're done, you fly to places, leaving me in stasis.
Thanks, Mike Flavin. He says lovely harmonies. Brian, what a cool recorder flute. What type of flute is that? That's a tin whistle. Tin whistles are diatonic instruments, meaning there is one instrument per key, and it's relative minor. So for those of you who watched my live streams, I think for Chuck Rainey's live stream, I used an F tin whistle, and it was a shorty in terms of the length of the tin whistle, because it was a higher key than a C or a D, if you know what I mean. So I wanted to feature, most of the instruments that I played for Leave Me in Stasis. So that's why I wrote that. And I also wanted to have a soft and more quiet, meditative intro leading to like a fast, furious, orchestral type ending. I think that's what I wrote on my Bandcamp page as well. Leading to a theremin orchestra fury before ending with prog pop energy. Yes, Brian, a tin whistle. Quality makes it. I like the drums more up front. Thanks, Mike Flavin. Any other questions or comments? An extended version to Leave Me in Stasis? No. That was pretty long. I think that piece is over 4 minutes long. And I didn't think that it would be a good idea. Again, I was trying to straddle the more, prog style of having really long pieces versus the length of time a person would sit down and consume material. And I think the best judge of how long it should be would be me. And I know I have a tolerance of sorts. So I went for how long I thought I would enjoy listening to a piece before I thought enough is enough. John Tobacco, you have a singular spiritual vision. Have you always been this focused on your work here? I'm not sure what here means, but have you always been this focused on your work? Yeah, in a way. I'm easily distracted. That is a problem I have, but it's not always a bad thing. I've learned how to harness the result of my distractions, which means if I see a flower, I pick it up and I put it in my work. If I see, a blade of grass, I pick it up and put it in my work. That kind of thing. So, but once I get started, I've been doing this for a long time, meaning I know how to somewhat turn on the creative tap. I also know how to rotate tasks so that you never kind of get worn out. You don't get kind of fatigued. Oh, John Tobacco. I mean, since you're a child. Wow. Uh, don't know. That's a good question. I think most of us as children probably don't find ourselves as focused as we are as adults. It depends on what you mean by focus, I suppose. Yeah, I guess I've always, when I'm doing something, I am very focused. But if you're talking about focused enough to complete a project, that's a different thing, isn't it? Completing a creative project is not an easy thing. I might have mentioned this in my previous live streams that most albums are never finished because the creatives behind the album or the track often think there's more they can do. Um, so they continue to record or re-record. Whereas I know that I'm good at kind of gauging when I want it completed. Of course, in hindsight, you think other things could have been done, but there'll always be hindsight. I think it's the same with everything. Mike Clevin, was the theremin put through an effect? It has a rock guitar sound. Yeah, I put it through fuzz and a little delay. I tend to, in that album, tend to put the theremin through a little fuzz to give it that grunge, because otherwise it's a little weak. Any other questions? Distortion or overdrive? That's a very good question as well. It depends on your definition, I suppose. It could be one or the other, or a bit of both. I tend to kind of tweak the amounts or the ratios according to what it sounds like in the actual track, because it's not separated from the track. I add or I apply an effect depending on how I feel it needs to sit in the mix in the track. Because remember, I do the production and mixing as well, so that allows me the producer's option. As a producer mixer, I can say, nope, it needs more of that. Right? That's how it happens. Life is quite different. When it's live, you're not the engineer mixer at the other end, so um, even if you submix, it's never quite uh, what you would get when you're in the actual room and you can complete it and say, yes, I like it that way. Okay, John Tobacco now has a personal question. The life elite does not seem typical by American standards. Do you find yourself more of a loner and an observer? Um, it depends what your typical American standard is. If you give me that standard, I could then measure it and tell you whether I'm, you know, uh, living by it or living quite apart from it. But I think most creative people are loners and observers. I don't know about you, John, or anyone else who's tuning in who are musicians as well, or creatives. A creative person could be involved in any industry that requires them to have a clear mind to come up with ideas and be able to manipulate the ideas such that these ideas are useful in the context. I guess we're always talking about where it ends up being, because not all creative ideas are useful. Again, it depends on what the use is. Uh, yes, I think when you don't work with a group of people, or including a band, you tend to be a loner. All right, so John Tobacco is saying the standard is meeting with people having family and typical 9 to 5 job. Yes, I think most creatives don't have 9 to 5 jobs. Even Chuck Rainey was explaining to us in his live stream that even though he was a musician for hire, and he went from job to job or gig to gig, it was never a 9 to 5 anyway. And most jobs aren't 9 to 5. It hasn't been so for decades since we had the internet and we were doing business internationally. I remember my marketing job in Singapore. I was still up midnight communicating with New York. So most of us work overtime. But I get what you're saying. Uh, yeah, I think in the music industry, I might be wrong, but women creatives tend to probably not have families as opposed to a man creative who might have a who might be fortunate to meet a woman and have a family with her, and she is supportive of his work. I don't know. Maybe it's changed. I think it's harder for a woman to try and have a family and hold down a creative job, such as being that of a musician. I hope that kind of answers your question. But I'm definitely an observer. I've always been an observer. I find it interesting. I've always been somewhat of a closet philosopher. Gary mentions that it seems like if you have a deadline, that helps you complete your work. Yeah, definitely. And often, if you're an indie artist, even a band signed to a label, it helps to create your own schedule. Having a schedule allows you to follow some type of timeline and know when enough is enough. So even though we are, you know, a lot of popular culture seems to what you might call it, portray the musician's life as being messy and all that kind of stuff, but most musicians I know are very disciplined and self-managed. If you're self-managed, you can be more successful that way, because you know you got to do your scheduler. You must know what, if your strings are broken, you must make sure you have them with you before you go to the show, that kind of thing. Oh, you have to really manage yourself well to be successful. Brian saying goodbye. Bye, Brian. Thanks so much for joining us, and I hope to see you next time I have a live stream. Take care and stay safe. Um, who else? Yes, Mike Flavin, you're right. The gig economy has perpetuated our lifestyles, hasn't it? That is true. Again, Mike, do you have to force yourself sometimes to decide something is finished? Yeah, when you know your limitations. For me, anyway. John Tobacco has some great questions, naturally, because, oh, John, I want to thank you also for playing my music on your show. Everyone, John has a show called Clam Radio, and I was going to post the link, but I've been occupied with the live stream stuff and other things. But I will post your link of my episode on my Facebook page. So I'll read John Tobacco's question again. What inspires your music making? Listening to other composers or just stream of consciousness with whatever is around you at the time? Both. both, or it could be inconsequential stuff, such as if you're riding on the train or something and you hear a sound because someone dropped something and you go, that's a nice sound. It's got a bright tone and it could, it conjures up ideas. Or it could be a rhythmic something, or you could wake up with the idea, or it could be listening to someone's song and it branches out into ideas, not necessarily imitating, but it makes you think, what if that were that something else. um yeah, I hope that answers your question. But I think the creative world is all about learning from each other, so that's always a fun thing. And having learning from each other is crucial in the support of the creative industry, I think. Don't be afraid to show your wares. uh, you know so what if you're imitated? It's still the same source of music anyway. I think I used the analogy same fabric from which the ideas are cut from when I explained the premise behind my two electronic operas. So in case you're curious, my first electronic opera was called Metal and Music, and it was premiered at the Singapore Arts Festival in 1999. The sequel to that, Time Mega Theory, premiered at the Melbourne Victorian Arts Festival in Australia in 2000, and I think it's 2000, year 2000 or 2001. Nom, 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 nom. I didn't know that. Mike Flavin. Clint Eastwood said, a man's got to know his limitations. And yes, John Tobacco's show is called Clam Radio. You heard that correctly. Thanks, John. Yes, Gary. I believe I read a similar anecdote about the Bee Gees writing Jive Talking. That's how the rhythm came about at the start. Yes, Mike Flavin. John Tobacco, do you have a lot of ideas sitting around just waiting to be complete or have a home in a collection? Have a lot of ideas sitting around just waiting to be have a home in a or have. I don't understand that question. Uh, do I have a lot of ideas waiting to be completed? Maybe. Yeah. Only a handful. I try not to have too many ideas sitting around. I like to complete things. Maybe that's my style. I like to complete things because I feel like maybe I think it's just my personality. I feel like if I wanted to put energy to ignite something, ignite an idea, I really should give it the investment. So I tend to like to complete things, if that was your question. But with my latest endeavor, my concerto, I've worked it quite differently. I created some themes, and I then let ideas come to me as I write movement by movement. So I don't have a collection of ideas to begin with. I just have themes or motifs, and then I would write one movement. Sometimes I would think, you can kind of hear you can see the canvas in sound as you paint a portion. You start to see where it can go. So I as you move to complete that section, you hear where the next section could be, and that's been the fun part. And they call that through composed. You probably know that, through composed, where you go from start to the end, and it's one complete, you know, piece by piece. It's not a verse chorus kind of thing, if I'm right to explain it that way. Um. Oh, John says. Oh, I see. Well, that's a good question. Have, yeah, I guess in a way, my first two albums kind of ended up being a collection of pieces from different projects I worked on, such as my electronic opera and live theater stuff that I was paid to perform, and they didn't actually pay to buy my work, so I still own my works. Live theater often does not have the budget to pay you for the lot, so I wanted to revision them in my albums. As I said in my first day of my mini series live stream, that people asked to buy my music, and I never fathomed the idea of creating an album or being a recording artist, so to speak, because who would want to buy my music? I was just happy to write and happy to perform, and have projects that paid me to do that. So the first two albums I had already material that I wanted to put together, but my third and fourth albums, I wrote for the album, so to speak. That is correct. Most I tend to work. Yeah, I'm a planner. So if I say, I want to work on blah blah blah, I will say I start in March and I'll finish in September, and then the release will be October. I'm a planner, marketeer, so I'm used to planning the life of a product and then marketing it and selling it, kind of thing. Uh, are there specific modes or chords you like to compose with that you will use for an entire album? No, I've not done that. I like variation, so far I've composed for a variety. And in an album, I tend to see the album like a story, so it will lead from one to the next, and it's almost like a musical, like you're watching a musical where the entire album is not of the same genre or the same content, but leads you to the next one. I like variety, so I tend to write that way. My concerto, on the other hand, as I said, I wrote motifs and themes from which then I use in movements, and what key signature or time signature or modes or chords I use, I tend to not let the previous movement dictate, because I still like a variety. um, so the other pieces that have on any of your album? Yes, there are. Particularly again from my live theater and electronic operas. Also, I did write a piece for my brother, but don't tell him. Oops, I already told him. I guess it's public. But I'm taking time to. That's the first piece that I've sat on for a while because I was not pleased with the way I completed it. I've actually performed it once at Steinway, but I think I'd like to manipulate it a bit. Since this one is a personal gift kind of thing, you know, I wanted to spend some time on it. No outtakes, in other words. Yeah, I would say no. No outtakes. I have outtakes from my guests though. For example, Dean Parks played, you know, when he played on the third album, he did several things, and I only kept, as in the process of production, made decisions on which ones would end up being in the actual final mix. So, if we have no more questions about them, we have time for one more song. Which one would you like? Gary, you've bought the album, so you're familiar with the track list. This will be the song that takes us to the end. Do you compose in I have a question from John. Do you compose in sections or do you hear the entire piece all at once? Both. Sometimes I hear them in sections. Sometimes I actually already visualize the entire canvas, and it's a slow process to complete it when I hear the entire canvas. Sometimes what I do, if I hear the entire canvas already, I either play a piano sound or some kind of a guide track quickly down so that my idea, it's like a sketch, like a pencil sketch, isn't it? You kind of pencil sketch it in, and then you start, you know, fleshing it out, so to speak. Yeah, I've done both. Thanks, John. That was a good question. Hope you didn't erase any of Dean Park's parts. No, I did not, of course. Oh, Gary wants the final song to be the title track, a working title. Or Deja Vu. Oh, John Tobacco. A working title, Da Capo, caught my attention right away. Okay, so what I'll do is I will play the title track and then it's Da Capo version. How's that? So the title track, I'll play the music video, and then the Da Capo, of course, has no music video. How's that? Okay, in that case, here we go. Here's a working title, Sang Song, the title track of the album.
I take the fall, then catch myself. My needs are important too, but so are you. So are you. Can't make up my mind whom to be true. I oscillate between the two. When I think of you, then you notice that you miss me. trying to steal our working title. When teardrops fall, I catch my breath. My needs are important too, but so are you. So are you. I got to think of happy times, forgetting that you crossed the line. Isn't such a crime. And you wonder why you miss me each time we say goodbye. Our sentence is delivered, guilty as charged, all trying to steal our working title. Our sentence is delivered, guilty as charged, all trying to steal our working title.
Thanks, everyone. That funny spacey sound has been used. No, I won't say who's used it. You'll have to discover. Someone actually liked that sound so much they used it in their album. The little bing kind of airy poppy sound. Um, Thanks, Gary. What you got here? Thanks. I wanted something that was sparse, so yeah, I really kind of wanted just like a piano bass kind of, uh, you know, not so much contrapuntal, but just the two of them working together for the start, and then the build was only at the very end. But of course, that build was then brought to extension in a working title, Da Capo, even though it's short. And I did that on purpose because I wanted the suspense of it to to have a short life and then nothing. Because I noticed that I was really enjoying that the strings and the orchestral kind of richness at the end and the rhythmic part. You know, as the rhythm kind of was sort of lulling me to this feeling of satisfaction and then musical enjoyment, and I want to shorten that enjoyment for me. Not because I'm being difficult. I just thought it'd be great, you know, that you want to hear more. um, oh, thanks, Gary. I like the strings too. I paid close attention to the register range of the different strings in the string section and tried to create a realistic a performance from the strings as I could. Terrific, confident singing. Aww. Thanks, John. Yeah, uh, you're right. I really wanted that exactly that. It was um, as the name of the song suggests, a working title. So it's again an observational piece of a relationship where the two want to be together, but they find excuses or reasons to be apart. And when they're apart, they miss each other and they come back together again. So there's this continuing tension. And in my mind, I heard the musical tension. I heard what I wanted it to create, that musical tension. I was hoping, a da capo might be picked up for a film or TV series or something. I guess I could remove the singing bits and it would work as something that had an atmospheric tension about it. But oh well, maybe one day. Thanks, John, Tobacco, and Gary as well. Ah, thanks, Mike Flavin, who said this was a terrific arrangement. All the parts, including the singing, fit together perfectly. Thanks. I try my best. I feel very fortunate that I can hear it in my head, the colors of the sounds, uh, and I guess most of us do once we are used to the sonic palette that we have. Also, how real world instruments sound like and what these instruments can accomplish. You start putting them together, to get what you want. And of course, if you can synthesize or sound design, even better. Okay, I'm gonna play working title Da Capo, which in my regular music and chat live streams I have played an extended version of with just the theremin. Again, it's so short because my intention was that it really just keeps you in that suspension and then leaves you there. There's no resolution, it just leaves you there. I guess we'll never know if the relationship worked out because, we don't have a proper ending. So here is a working title, Da Capo.
I take the fall, then catch myself. My needs are important too, but so are you. Are you? Then you notice that you miss me. I'm etched into your mind. Our sentence is delivered, guilty as charged of trying to steal a working titan. Guilty as our sentence is delivered, guilty as charged of trying to steal a working titan.
Yes, Gary has seen me perform it twice, the extended version on two of my live streams. John Tobacco, yes, isn't it wonderful that we can be millions of miles apart and still have a conversation together? And thank you so much for joining me today, John. Um, Gary, the strings stand out even more here. I that capo in particular, really, I realize that I am quite affected by a good string line. Strings have this way of kind of stirring up your emotions, don't they? So I really wanted that to happen to the listener as well. So I employed the strings to do that, and I'm glad it worked. Do we have any more questions? That means there's hope, I suppose. That's so funny. Again, if you want more information about my music, my website has plenty. Also about me, my background, and what I do. My SoundCloud site has other things as well. Primarily all the music that you would find on my YouTube channel. Also, instead of giving you my YouTube channel information, I really should um, give you my Facebook artist page. Um, I think it's Shueh-li Ong Music is my artist page, and the music and chat. Gary, can you let me know if it's music and chat Shueh-li Ong? I can't quite remember now. But I have a music and chat Facebook page as well, and I hope if you have been joining me that you would like that page so that you can be alerted to any new news or have conversations with me and my other team members. That would be really nice. But I do have information on Shueh-li Ong Music, my Facebook artist page. uh, Mike Flam, I'm seeing over the past few days a progression in music from instrumentation and sounds to a song format. Well, as I explained, Mike Flavin, and you're very what's the word? I can't think of a word. You are correct. As I explained in my first mini series stream, that in my regular live chats, I tend to perform live instrumentals because they're easier to set up. I don't have a setup to try and cancel all the echoes and things and proper monitoring and all that. So and then switching from mic to mic. I have done sung songs on two live stream occasions, but I usually do the instrumentals. Whereas for the mini series, this under quarantine mini series, I decided to highlight my sung songs since I don't usually do them in the regular live streams. So, which is why you're hearing the sung songs. But I've always done, as you know, from album one to now done sung songs and instrumentals, making use of all the available instruments to color my canvas, so to speak. Yes, Gary. The Facebook page is called Music and Chat with Shueh-li Ong, but I can't remember quite what the actual account name, so to speak. Let me have a quick look. Facebook. I wonder if I'll find that this way. No. 1 second, folks. Just bear with me for a short while while I get the name of it. Okay, yes. It's Music and Chat Shueh-li Ong. That's correct. So yeah, my the account name or whatever you call it you know how when you type in the URL, facebook.com/music and chat, Shueh-li Ong is my Facebook page for the series Music and Chat. So as I typed out on screen. So don't worry, Gary. We're good. Any other questions? I'll stay on for a few more minutes. But please encourage your friends to come by when I begin season 3. I've got a few interesting guests so far, and I'm trying to mix them up with other interesting guests as well. So we have a few uh, round twos. Rory Kaplan and Chris Curel are coming back. Who did I say? Dean Parks and Chuck Rainey are coming back. The gang from Mokefesto 7, we're going to view video clips. And several other. I think Lee Stringer's going to appear with somebody else. We've got a few fan favorites already and good friends of mine. I do have several other people who will make this mix quite interesting and exciting. So please bring your friends along. It'd be nice to be able to grow the community of music and chat. That will make me extremely happy. Because as Don Preston, Pat Gleason, and I noted, we don't get paid for anything anymore. So funny. That was a funny episode. If you haven't watched that one, you should go watch it. But we get paid by your attendance and your friendly banter, and we really love you all. I want to say thank you. Where's my "You're Awesome" animated GIF? Here we are. You're awesome. Thank you, and you're awesome. You're awesome. The first time I used the word awesome was in the United States. And I love the word. Since then, I've loved the word. I think it's a fabulous word. Gary, don't have to threaten your friends, but I guess you have to pay them like Brian and who else mentioned? Maybe 50,000. I would really like to grow my subscribers to 1,000 at least. I have been doing this live stream for almost a year now. And I think, I don't know, it's been great to have extra subscribers. I think I've had at least 100 subscribers since then, but it's gonna take a long time to get to 1,000 at this rate. 100 a year. Whoops. Mike Clement says my drummer usually stops by on Sunday. Is that Val? Yeah, I think Val was here yesterday, but he dropped by at the end of my stream, so it was sad, but it was nice to see him. So there's a lot of live chatter on in the live chat, obviously, and so I want to say thanks to all the viewers. If I can remember everybody, definitely Gary Mayulo and Mike Flavin. Thanks, you guys. You're always here. Sam, if you're still listening while you're working, thanks so much for dropping by. I know it's probably past lunchtime in Sydney, Australia. Brian, thanks so much for tuning in as well, a friend of Gary. Philip Santori, I don't know if you're still there, but thanks so much for tuning in as well. John Tobacco, also, it was great seeing you, and you had such great questions to ask as well. And also, thanks for playing my music on your station. Who else was here? Anyone else that I missed? I think that's all the names that I have seen in the live chat. So, if you have no more questions, I'm gonna bid you all adieu. I'm just looking at the rest of the chat. So while we do that, I'm gonna play my usual background music when I go in the outro while I wait for you guys to finish. Thanks, Mike Levin. You too. It's gonna be a while before season 3, okay? It's gonna be a fair few weeks before season 3, but I hope when I start it up again that I will get a huge community of viewers. So please help me out with gathering new friends. Thanks, Gary Mayulo. Thanks so much for your posting of my events as well. And I've really enjoyed having you guys on my 4-day quarantine at the Shangri-La Hotel. I want to thank the Shangri-La Hotel in Singapore for putting me up for 2 weeks in this lovely room. Great service, by the way, as well. And I hope I'll be back to the Shangri-La Singapore on a more conducive visit. A visit where I can actually look around and enjoy the facilities. But yes, I've got a few more days to go in this quarantine. Then I can settle myself back into a proper routine and catch up with you guys again. Yes, Gary. I really look forward to seeing you all. A break is good for the soul, I think. And I do need to recharge my energy. Furthermore, I will go find new guests for us. I would like to really try and schedule a whole season's worth of guests ahead of time so that I'm not frantically securing them on that date. Mike Levin, you're funny. Okay then, guys, I'm gonna say goodbye and take care until I see you again, okay? Thank you, and you all are awesome. And stay in touch by Facebook. Bye.